Hey everybody, Trevor here. Wanted to do just actually like a quick little talk about my trip to Fort Peck. I just got home here to beautiful Helena, Montana. It feels good to be home, and it's really cool actually. I had a song come on when I got home, and it was Simple Man by Shinedown. Actually originally Leonard Skinner, one of my favorite songs, but it was really cool. Mama told me, yeah, when I was young, something to love and understand. Anyways, it just really resonated with my trip up there with my really good friend Ken Schmidt. Oh, goosebumps. Rare good friends are really hard to come by. But anyways, I haven't got to do a ton of cool stuff lately because of some medical issues. So this is the first thing I got to do in quite a while, and felt very blessed and lucky to get to do it, and had the absolute time of my life. Thanks to Ken and everybody else I got to see up there. It was amazing to see so many faces I haven't seen in so long. But long story short, I headed up there, had to leave a little late, was able to get into a doctor here before I left about my hip, one of the issues. But anyways, got up there a little late. We didn't get to pre-fish as long as we wanted. Ken stood up for us and pre-fished a whole day before I got there. Anyways, I always loved the road trip up there. The most eventful part of this journey up there was the painted turtles. I found 5 or 6 painted turtles that I saved on the highway, but unfortunately the first one, and it broke my heart. I saw him trying to cross the road, so I went up about a mile to a turnout, came back, and right when I got back to him, his semi was like, whoa, turtle gone. Not good. So anyways, I was able to save 4 or 5 others though, and got to Glasgow. I always love the smells up there. There's more meadowlarks. There's just a lot of neat stuff. It's Fort Peck. Met up with Ken. Then we headed out for our first day of pre-fishing, and we just happened to land on him. It was something else. I've never seen anything like it. I think we probably caught about 40 walleye that day, and Ken was just on fire. Kit's tackle jig in the Dream, the Johnson jig. I rarely ever change the way I jig because it's so successful. But Mr. Kinney was whooping my butt bad. And he was in the front of the boat, so he's going to catch the most fish. But we're talking he was 12-2 at one point. So I was like, all right, I'm paying attention. I'm listening. So he showed me and it's funny because you say Schmidt, and I can't say words great all the time. So I called it the Ken Shit Special. So it's supposed to be the Ken Schmidt Special, but now it's the Ken Shit Special. But it was working. I started doing that, and I started smacking. Anyways, tons of big fish. Like I said, we probably got 40 fish. I think we had, honestly, probably 15 plus over 24 inches. It was insane. Big 30 was the biggest that day, but we had quite a few in that 28, 29 range, or 27 to 29 range. I've never seen anything like it. It was crazy. So that set the path, man. You have something like that happen, you got your spot. We could have ran way down the dry arm. We could have gone way down the main. We could have gone way back in some bay. But you have something like that happen, you'd be silly, in my opinion, to do anything else. So Thursday was cold and nasty. We went out, just fished random stuff. Had a pretty tough day, but actually was able to scratch up some big fish. Probably caught, a dozen or 15 that day, just fishing random stuff, and got a couple big ones. Super fun. So we had the game plan down. But quick side note, R-rated, maybe X-rated. That's a great story. Cold as heck. Me and Ken almost snuggled. I didn't want to say anything. He's like, geez, I was about to ask you too. But anyways, back to the story. We were down the lake. It was windy, cold, and Ken was going pee. And he's like, hey, Trevor, I got a funny story for you. Did I ever tell you about that one about me and my dad when I was trying to pee and it was cold? I'm like, no, I don't think so. So he said he was fishing with his dad, and he's like, hey, Dad, talk to me dirty. His dad's like, what? And Ken's like, come on, Dad, say something dirty to me. So his dad started talking to him, like, what the heck are you saying? And Ken's like, no, just do it. Just talk to me dirty. He's like, when that little bugger pops out, I'm going to grab him. So later that day, I was joking around with Ken because the wind was blowing about 20 miles an hour and I had to pee. So I'm in the back of the boat undoing my pants, and I'm like, hey, Ken, talk dirty to me. And he started laughing. He's like, okay. So he starts out, he's like, there was this beautiful, beautiful woman. She had a beautiful face, like the most beautiful woman you've ever seen, and slowly removes her top. and she had big, beautiful breasts. Then she started dripping hot oil on her breasts. And then she moved down and she took down her panties, and she had a great big wiener, the biggest wiener you've ever seen. And we both started laughing so hard about having a heart attack. And of course, by this point, after hearing that, I was hung like a light switch between the cold and all envisioning this beautiful woman with a big ding-a-ling. So anyways, Ken got the best of me, and then he just would not let up. He just kept going on and was talking about her doing the helicopter, and it was just hilarious. So long story short, I sat there for about 2 minutes having to pee really bad with no success. Finally, I got Ken hooked a fish or something. I got him to focus on something else. I could go to the bathroom. But anyways, just good times, man. You got to have fun in these things because there is stress. You've got anxiety. You know, no matter how mentally tough you are, everybody's going to get a little bit worked up when you're fishing a big tournament. So anyways, we went in that night. We had our game plan. We went to the rules meeting. Again, it was awesome to see so many great faces that I haven't seen in a few years. Just really was heartfelt. It was awesome. So game day came along, and we ran right back over to our spot, and we realized through pre-fishing and that we definitely had a little bit of company, but we weren't sure if there was going to be like half of the teams in the tournament, or if there was going to be like 2 other boats. Well, there was like 2 other boats, and these guys are sticks. I mean, me and Kenny can jig. I put us up against anybody, but these guys were probably as good or better than anybody on the Walleye Circuit. So we figured, hey man, these guys are here too. There's definitely fish here. So started working, and Ken's first or second cast, he hooks a northern, and felt like a walleye comes up. We're like, it's a dang pike, you know, which are awesome fish, but so annoying in a tournament. So my first cast, I pitch into this island, and like 2 pulls, and whack, I hooked this fish, and it's so shallow it jumped. And Kenny's like, is that a bass? And I'm like, yeah, it's a freaking bass. So I start reeling as hard as I can, just yarding this thing across the top of the water. And the sun, the way it was angling, you couldn't see anything, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And all of a sudden, this giant walleye dorsal popped up in the sun, and it was like the most amazing looking thing you've ever seen. It was awesome. And then we're like, oh crap. Anyways, we get it in, and 31 or 28 3/4. First fish of the day, 28 3/4. We looked at each other and kind of giggled, and we're like, like we're going to pull 50 pounds today. We had been pulling, like that one day we fished, we figured about 47 to 49 pounds. So right there. And our biggest fish was 30, you know. So we easily could have pulled over 50 pounds, and that was our plan. All of a sudden, it got slow. We're like, what's going on here? Because like I said, we caught so many fish the day pre-fishing. So we kept working and realized that our bite was gone. I mean, we were catching a few fish, but, you know, they were loaded, and I mean loaded. So we fished our hearts out best we could, and we got some fish, and then we had the whole camera debacle. Pretty good with cameras, I thought, but Ken, definitely not so much. He was deleting pictures the night before, even just practicing. So we're trying to get these pictures, and it's hilarious. I mean, we didn't know what to do, so we're taking pictures with our phone. We've got a digital camera. I stopped and bought like a little GoPro type camera on the way. So we're taking all these pictures, all these different devices, confusing the living crap out of ourselves. And anyways, awesome day. We ground it out, but we were able to stick that 28 3/4. I think we had a 26 3/4, and then, you know, some low to mid 20 stuff. So nothing like what we planned. It was crazy though. We had this one island where it was just loaded. I mean, we caught over 20 fish on this one little island, and tons of big ones. And we fished that thinking like they'll at least be here, our saving grace. It was dead. 2 days later after we did that, it completely dead. Those fish were gone. We didn't mark any fish. We marked no bait fish. We caught nothing. So our hearts kind of sank right there. But anyways, we just knew we had to fish hard. And the one stand-up thing I'd say about Kenny, well, lots of them. He's a great guy. He has the same philosophy as me. We had our spot. We had our plan, and we stuck to it. We're not the kind of folks that are going to run down the lake and look for a pot of boats and go swinging in there. That's just not our gig. You know, or go and trying stuff that other people might be on. You know, we know that would probably been our best chance of keeping up with these guys or pulling a huge weight, but we found what we found, and we reaped what we sowed. So anyways, we were back to the camera debacle. We had our 5 fish. We're going in for the day, and it just got nasty at this point. Like, it is embarrassing. I go walking up there. They give you a little Ziploc bag, and you got your SD card and everything, and there's like 20, 30, 40 people in line. They've all just sitting there BSing, like nothing, everything's good. They've all got their little Ziploc bag and their SD card, nice, just standing there waiting in line. I'm sitting there jumbling a GoPro, Ken's like 1972 digital camera, even though they weren't made back then, and his cell phone, trying to figure all this stuff out. I'm trying to delete pictures. I'm deleting the wrong pictures. So now all of a sudden the 23.5 is on this SD card, not the other one. I'm like, oh man, we're toast. So anyways, I get in there and I told them the story, and they kind of laughed at me and just said, don't let it happen again. Finally made it through it, but gosh, it was it was bad. So anyways, day 2, we were just praying our fish would move back in. They did not. It got super tough. We fished our number 1 spot for probably 3 hours, and I think we caught 2 fish, maybe 3. Biggest I think was like 17 or 18 inches. The big fish were gone, vomitos. So it was just a bummer. And we knew that island was probably going to be dead again, but we just thought, hey, maybe they moved back in there. We went and fished the island about 30 minutes and caught one little smallmouth. And it was like, wow, now what do we do? So there was one other place close that we pre-fished. So we went out there, and I wish we would have gone there earlier because day 1, I lost 2 big fish from rigging rods. And then day 2, we lost 3 big fish jigging. I mean, you couldn't do anything with them. And I know everybody says that, everybody loses fish. So if our bite would have stayed when we're catching tons of big fish, when one falls off, it's not a big deal. You're like, oh crap, but it's not the end of the world. But when you're on a bite where you're only going to get a couple bites a day, you can't have that happen, or it's devastating anyway. So we had that happen 3 times. We lost 3 big fish, and we caught landed only one big fish day 2. We had some nice fish to go with it, though, low to mid 20s. Just couldn't get any more big ones. Couple more big ones, and we'd have been not right up there to win it, but we definitely would have been up there a lot more. I think we ended up in 23rd place out of 90 some teams. So still good, but not, we're fishing to win it, but we're happy with what we had. But the most important thing to focus on is having fun. Like I said, there was multiple times that me and Ken were laughing so hard that I couldn't breathe. And Kenny's funny, he starts crying when he laughs. So he's just bawling, like tears running down his face. Pretty good stuff. If you can't do that, then, I don't know if I would fish these things. Because like I said, there is stress and anxiety and everything else. And no matter how good of a fisherman you are, you're not always going to win these things. Like I said, I put me and Ken up against anybody. If you land on these fish, especially Fort Peck, and I'm not taking away from any of the winners or anything like that, but these fish can just be insane. They're not like any other walleye I've seen. You land on them and they bite. It can be crazy. So top teams pulled, or the top team pulled 100 pounds. Just insane. And then there was multiple weights in the 80s and 90s. It's like, holy crap. So pretty incredible. I think we ended up with like 57 or something, and 23rd place. 57 pounds for this one didn't seem like anything, but in most tournaments you're going to bury it with 57 pounds. So Fort Peck, just absolutely incredible. But day 2, we thought we had the camera thing figured out. We practiced back at home. I was deleting the right pictures. Everything was going good. And I went to open the jockey box on the boat while we're driving to get the card, and the card flies out, and Ken's like, oh, and I'm like, whew, and I caught it flying by my head at 100 miles an hour. Ken's just laughing and laughing. Then I pull the SD card out of the camera, and the wind catches my hand, and the SD card hits the floor of the boat and goes da-ding, da-ding, and flips back and lands up by the motor, just about threw the SD card out of the boat. And Ken is just like, holy crap, man, this is not our gig. So we finally get back to weigh in, second day. We knew we didn't have the fish to be anywhere up there, but we still had a blast, had a great time. Everything was awesome. We caught big fish. I'd never seen anything like that. I brought some fish home to eat for the family, and just being with wonderful people and being up there. And sometimes you don't think about the most important things. I was able to go do that. There's more important things than just winning. We all want to win, but think how lucky we are to get to go do something like that. It's awesome. So anyways, I go heading up thinking I'm going to be the guy with the Ziploc all neat and ready to go. And I get up there, and everybody else is kind of talking, and I was talking with Kenny Williams. He's like, hey, what'd you guys get? And I kind of told him. He's like, let me see your card. And I'm like, uh-oh, where the hell's the card? I had left the card in the boat. So I had to go all the way back down to the boat. Kenny had to drive back up. He was just shaking his head. He's like, man, I need Velcro for you. He's like, you're a mess. And I'm like, yeah. So they call me Hurricane Johnson. And that's not in a good way. But anyways, just to recap, it was absolutely magical experience. I've never seen that many big fish caught in one day. It's been the most fun I've had in a long, long time. I miss my family to death, but it was much needed. Yeah, don't really know what else to say besides, yeah, it was just awesome. So cheers to jigging the dream. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you later.